The word terrorism has been in place since the late 1700s. According to the Webster Dictionary, the word terrorism is the use of violence and intimidation in the pursuit of political aims. Typically, acts of terror are done by radical extremist groups, normally in response or in pursuit of religion, politics, and certain groups' vendettas towards each other. Some of the most prominent terrorist attacks known today are 9/11, anthrax in the mail, the Boston bombing, and the Paris bombing.
According to the History Channel, on September 11, 2001, at 8:45 a.m. on a clear Tuesday morning, an American Airlines Boeing 767 loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact left a gaping, burning hole near the 80th floor of the 110-story skyscraper, instantly killing hundreds of people and trapping hundreds of more higher floors. As the evacuation of the tower and its twin got underway, television cameras broadcasted live images of what initially appeared to be a freak accident. Then, 18 minutes after the first plane hit, a second Boeing 767 United Airlines Flight 175 appeared out of the sky, turned sharply toward the World Trade Center, and sliced into the South Tower near the 60th floor. The collision caused a massive explosion that showered burning debris all over surrounding buildings and the streets below.
All right.
So how old were you when 9/11 happened?
I was 18 years old, just turned 18.
All right. Where were you at the time of the attacks?
I was at the donut stop. I had an off period, so I went and got some donuts for the teacher that we were supposed to be in that class, to be in their aide. And then we walked through the hallway, and there was like the TVs were on in the classroom saying that the Twin Towers had been hit, and we didn't believe it.
So what'd you do next?
Called some people that some of my friends that were in college and see if they were actually, if it was true. We couldn't get a hold of my parents for some reason. And then like within the next couple hours, everyone was checked out of school. There was only like 100 of us left, and everyone was all freaking out. And so I didn't really think it was that big of a deal until later on that evening when I got to finally talk to my parents. So
how did you feel after?
Kind of, I don't know. I felt kind of scared for the country. Where I was, I didn't really feel that bad, but I just felt that it was it could have gotten worse because I knew that there was going to be a war impending and some things like that. But where I was, I felt pretty safe, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
All right. And did you know any of the victims?
I did not know anyone in New York at the time.
America was under attack. Shortly after the 4 flights took off, the terrorists took command of the planes. While millions of Americans were watching the events unfold in New York, American Airlines Flight 77 flew straight into the west side of the Pentagon at 9:45 a.m. This attack caused part of the Pentagon to collapse, killing 125 military personnel and civilians, along with 64 people aboard the airline. Not long after the nerve center of the U.S. military was struck, fear and panic exploded when the South Tower of the World Trade Center buckled with debris flying everywhere and flames flying high. The tower was meant to withstand massive fires and winds up to 200 miles per hour, but the building could not handle the excessive heat the burning jet fuel put off. Almost 3,000 people died, according to the History Channel, including 23 New York City police officers, 343 paramedics and firefighters, and 37 Port Authority police officers working to evacuate people from the towers. There were only 6 people who were trapped inside the building that made it out alive. There were almost 10,000 other people who were sent to the hospital with serious injuries, and many of them were severe. This attack was funded by Osama bin Laden's terrorist organization, Al-Qaeda. Allegedly, this attack was in the anger of the United States' support of Israel and our assistance in the Persian Gulf War, along with the continuance of military personnel found throughout the Middle East.
A decade later, May 2nd, 2011, Osama bin Laden was killed at age 54 by the U.S. forces during a raid on his compound hideout in Pakistan. Robin O'Neill was the U.S. SEAL claiming to have officially killed bin Laden. During the raid, which lasted approximately 40 minutes, bin Laden, one of his adult sons, and 5 others were killed by U.S. gunfire. No Americans were injured during the assault. Justice has been served, the president said.
On September 18, 2001, just a week after the 9/11 bombings, microbiologist Bruce E. Ivins single-handedly prepared and mailed a number of letters covered in anthrax spores. According to MedicineNet.com, anthrax is a life-threatening bacterial disease that causes skin, lung, and bowel disease, and is transmitted by direct contact with the infected. Bruce E. Ivins, one of the few scientists who had both the access and the skill needed to create the deadly powder, was believed to have addressed the letters to news organizations and to U.S. senators. These letters were believed to contain radical Islamic rhetoric, a possible link to the 9/11 attacks. The spore-laden letters killed 5 people, sickened 17 others, and led to an increase in government defense spending at Defense Against Biological Attacks. As government lawyers were preparing to charge Ivins, he committed suicide on the 29th of July, 2008.
On April 15, 2013, during the Boston Marathon, at approximately 2:49 that afternoon, 2 pressure cooker bombs hidden in backpacks were placed on the ground near the finish lines. They exploded, resulting in 3 deaths and 260 injuries.
How old were you when the Boston bombing occurred?
I don't know exactly, but somewhere around 44.
Do you remember what you were doing when the tragedy occurred and how the event impacted your life at the moment?
I think I was at work. The Boston Marathon is during the week, and I think I was at work and just saw it come across the news wire, and was deeply saddened that was going on, and didn't know at the time exactly what was happening.
What do you think we could have done better when addressing the issue to the terrorist attacks, such as the Boston bombing?
Well, much like 9/11, I don't think anybody was thinking that terrorists would attack a marathon site or any other thing that's going on in our daily lives. But once it happened, I think the police did the best job that they possibly could in Boston to make sure that the city was safe and to catch the folks that had done the crime. And since that time, cameras have been installed there and across America at events like that. Things have taken place to make sure that folks are safe, and cameras are installed to watch, and different security sweeps have gone on to make sure that everybody is safe.
How do you think the Boston bombing changed America?
I think it, much like 9/11, when that occurred, it just struck everybody as odd that in their daily lives they had to think about their safety and security that they weren't thinking about before they went out to do their daily activities that day.
More than 1,000 local, state, and federal law enforcement officers were launched to investigate the terror attack. On April 18th, through video surveillance, the authorities were able to discover 2 unknown men. It was later discovered that these 2 men were Tamerlan Tsarnaev and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, Muslims who were born in the former Soviet. The 2 brothers were believed to be motivated by extremist Islamic beliefs, but were unassociated with any terror groups.
On April 18th at 10:30 p.m., Sean Collier, a 27-year-old police officer, was shot dead in his patrol car in Massachusetts on the Cambridge campus. The brothers were suspected of the murder. Tamerlan, at the age of 26, making him the eldest of the 2, allegedly carjacked a Mercedes SUV at gunpoint and told the driver that he had been one of the Boston Marathon bombers. Both brothers took the driver hostage and forced the man to make a withdrawal from the ATM. The hostage was able to get away and contact authorities when the brothers stopped the Mercedes at the Cambridge gas station. The police was able to track the SUV. A gun battle broke out between the brothers and the police. Tamerlan was shot multiple times and tackled by the police. The other terrorist made his getaway, running over the brother with the SUV in process. The hospital could not save the terrorist, and later the SUV was found nearby. On April 19th, the Boston area was put on lockdown and door-to-door searches were conducted by the police in order to catch the terrorist. The terrorist was later found when a man went to check on his boat. Police enforcement was called, and they took the terrorist into custody. He scrawled his message into the boat before his arrest was made.
On November 13th through 14th, 2015, 7 places in Paris was bombed, flooding Paris with fear. A state of emergency was declared. The first 3 explosions occurred outside the Stade de France Stadium in the northern fringe of Paris, where France was playing against Germany in an international football game. Meanwhile, other attacks were unfolding near the center of the town, around popular nightlife spots. The first took place about 9:25 p.m. in the 10th district. Then came an attack on a few diners south of Rue Albert. The next reports of shooting came south of the first restaurant attack at a bar in the 11th district. The shooting and bombs blast left 130 people dead and hundreds wounded, with more than 100 in critical condition.